and welcome to the first episode of Grain of Truth. Today, we spoke with Yadenee Lewis from Feeding Tampa Bay, who is actually a dietitian and a chef with so many more accomplishments. We hope you all enjoy. So, welcome to Grain of Truth. This is our podcast by OMG Nutrition, and we are so happy to be partnering with Feeding Tampa Bay today. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Whoop, whoop. Hi, my name is Yadenee Lewis. I'm a nutrition educator with Feeding Tampa Bay. I teach nutrition. And it's really, really important work that I'm excited to do on a daily. I don't know what else I should put in that intro.
Could you give us some background on like your education and kind of like how you got to this point?
Oh, that's good. That's good. I do have a story. Um, I started with culinary school when I was 18. I figured job security, people always need to eat. And I love cooking. So that kind of started my love for nutrition. I went to culinary school. I became a chef at Disney. We did a lot of catering, so they would have me do the specials of all of the catering meals. So the gluten-free meals, the vegetarian meals, pescatarian, like any weird special order that came up, they gave that to me. So I had to do a lot of research to make sure that I was keeping up with the demands that they were asking. And that really sparked my interest for nutrition. Um, I've had a long career. I've been an executive chef. I've been a personal chef. I've been a preschool teacher. I've been a server. I learned all of the front of the house kitchen stuff because at some point I was like, oh, I'm going to be kitchen manager. Um, and then after a while, like being in the culinary field was not as fulfilling because I'm like, we're killing people. We can't keep giving them these foods.
Yeah.
So I went back to school for dietetics and nutrition with Kaiser University. I graduated with my bachelor's and then I became an executive chef again. Why?
So basically, you've been all over the place and you have a lot of experience with the industry.
Absolutely. And that one specifically was with seniors. And then after that, I was like, nope, I need to get into nutrition. I need to make an impact in my community. Because I made that decision, Feeding Tampa Bay called.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So people always talk about like quick ways to lose weight. So do you have any ways that you could share with us, or are those like things you have to keep secret?
I wish that there was a secret to it. I would make a lot of money if that were the case. There is no like for sure secret to weight loss. And I rarely encourage people to lose weight unless it's like a medical reason or like goal for that weight loss. I tell people all the time that losing weight is a normal desire, but it's not necessarily going to make you happier or healthier. So I don't have any tips. Drink water.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you share some insights on what you would think it's a balanced diet, though?
Yes. So when a balanced diet, because we hear it all the time, means a lot of different things. At every point in time throughout our lives, our bodies are striving for homeostasis, which is where that balance comes in. So first, we want to make sure we have our macronutrients. Those are going to be our carbohydrates, our proteins, and yes, our fats. They're very important for our health. Then we have our micronutrients, which are our vitamins and our minerals. And the nutrient that no one ever talks about is water. We need all of these things to have a balanced diet. There's nothing balanced about a restrictive diet. You can do that thing, especially if it was prescribed by a doctor or a dietitian, but you want to make sure you're getting all of the food groups and all of these nutrients in a balanced way. And I feel like some people get very hyper fixated on, oh, these things, I'm going to eat all of that. Well, pull back. Or I don't need to have any of these things ever. Pull back. There's no balance in that. So it's all about finding that in between through
Yeah.
the nutrients.
I completely agree with that. And like I think that a lot of people, especially for like carbs or fats, it's very easy to overeat on carbs or fats. So I think a lot of people tend to like villainize or kind of make them or view them as a bad thing, when in
Mm-hmm.
reality they're essential to our diet. So I definitely agree with everything you said there. But what are your opinions also on like, for example, I know you don't agree with taking any diets out, but for example, there are like there's keto and there's what a Mediterranean and like what are your opinions on those diets?
No, let me see. I feel like every diet can be helpful and healthy if you're like doing it regimentally and you've done your research and you're listening to your body in the process. Do I think that a keto diet is healthy? Not necessarily, because it's restrictive. And so for me, if it's a restrictive diet and it doesn't cover all of my food groups, I'm not going to eat that, but I also won't discourage other people if they're finding results and they feel happier and healthier and more energy. The Mediterranean diet, it's great. I love that diet because it's literally based off of the lifestyle that they live. And I feel like that is the difference between most diets. And I actually wanted to touch on something that you were saying earlier. People feel bad because they overeat on carbs or proteins or fats, and they're like, we don't need that. That's not true. There was actually a time in our history where we needed a lot of carbs and we needed a lot of proteins and we need a lot of fats because we were doing a lot of physical activity. We
Mhm.
just haven't changed the foods to match our current lifestyle. And so we're trying to do all these quick, like, how do I do this really fast? These quick things that don't match our lifestyle. The Mediterranean diet is great because they're using things that they're growing, things that are coming out of the ocean that matches the current lifestyle that they have.
Yeah.
There's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's definitely a time and place to eat a lot of carbs and a lot of protein and things like that. So, you know, yeah, there's definitely a time and place for it. If you overeat on carbs, it's good if you're very active because it's very fast, quick energy. But if you live a very sedentary lifestyle, it's going to be hard to expect not that carb not to turn into fat very quickly. So,
Exactly. So know your lifestyle, know your goals, and be intentional with how you're eating. No food is bad.
You would stay away from like certain ingredients, foods, or like eating habits?
I don't stay away from certain ingredients unless I don't like them. um, Eating habits are really the things that I look out for as a dietitian myself personally. So with that, the number one thing that I focus on is not skipping meals. Like that is a very unhealthy eating habit that we see all the time, and no one talks about it. Don't skip meals when possible. Eating regularly is one of the best things that you can do for your body. I'm really trying to think. Like
Honestly,
that,
like I can
number
that kind
nine.
of pops a question. Like I've
Okay.
heard that some people say like eating 3 meals a day isn't ideal, but rather having like multiple yet small meals kind of scattered throughout the day is a lot more beneficial to your body than just having like a big breakfast, a big lunch, and a big dinner.
Hmm. Once again, I feel like it really depends on the person, the activity, like what their day to day looks like, and then their biology, which is
Mm-hmm.
why I think that nutrition education and information is so hard because there is the science, but then there's also the biology of different people, and then also our mindsets and our backgrounds and our experiences. So it gets really complicated in that. So, like, at the base, I would recommend that people have 2 to 3 meals a day, you know? And from there, I always recommend that people snack. Listen to your body, find those hunger cues. Are you hungry right now, or are you waiting for your dinner at 8 o'clock? Have a snack. You can totally do that. Listen to your body. Or maybe you can't have a big meal at breakfast, like your stomach just doesn't like that churn and burn. So have like a few pieces of fruit and like snack until you have that big lunch. So it's really just like what works for me, what feels good. I should be doing this, but my body doesn't like it. And that's why I don't like to put hard constraints on what's good for your body and what's not. It's very subjective. I'm a snacker. I am. I snack all day long. I try to be very conscious about my snacks. And then usually around dinner time, I have like a really, I won't say a big dinner, but a decent sized dinner. And then I'll follow up with like fruit for a snack before I go to bed.
Yeah, we learn in like anatomy, people naturally have like systems in their brain and in their bodies that tell them when they're hungry. So it's important to like be able to listen to those. Like your body knows what it's doing. To circle back on, sorry, to circle
Sorry.
back on the importance of not skipping meals, could you elaborate on the role of nutrition in like preventing and managing chronic diseases? Because I understand that like food is a very important part of keeping the body healthy. So are there any like specific dietary recommendations for certain health conditions that you might know that are common?
So, food is health. We do, in fact, need food to help prevent chronic diseases like diabetes, hypertension, all of the big words that we are well aware of, cancers. So I think the best thing that you can do is to one, pick up on those hunger cues, make sure that you're actually feeding yourself and drinking lots of water. So with that, because I do work for a very large organization, I specifically cannot address um, how nutrition plays a role in chronic disease management because it still varies from person to person. And before we start any class of nutrition education, we are always telling people, hey, I'm not a doctor, check with your doctor, but this thing might help. I'm not a doctor. Go talk to your doctor or your dietitian. And that's how we have to start out every single class. So when we teach, we actually don't address foods or things that'll help with chronic diseases. We try to address eating habits, mindful eating, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, people like have people's bodies and they have like different reactions to certain foods, and it just like really depends on the person.
Yes, and what I find is that a lot of people are like, hey, well, give me this direct, definitive answer so I know what to do and I'll do that forever. And I'm like, I can't, because your body is different and it's constantly changing. You have to listen to your body. I can't tell you what your body needs. And then when you don't know what your body needs, that's when we go to the doctor and we get the blood work and so on and so forth for extra insight. I don't know if that helps.
I was wondering, going back to how you were talking about how some people just can't eat in the morning because they feel sick, or there's some people that say that eating food too close before bed like isn't good for you. Like, could you elaborate on why you think that is for both of those?
So we have this really interesting, intricate gastrointestinal tract. And it works automatically. There's muscles moving and flowing, there's hormones going off. And so the body's resting and moving even when we're not thinking about it. When we're asleep, those body functions are still moving, but at a much slower rate. We're relaxed. The hormones are like, hey, we're asleep right now. We're not working. Finish digesting, take the rest of the night off, right? And if you're somebody like me who wakes up and immediately gets started on their day, my GI tract cannot keep up with the actions I'm already taking. So I'm like, all right, time to go get dressed, brush your teeth, get out the door. And then an hour or two later, then my GI tract is like, oh, hey, are we ready for breakfast? So I always recommend like wake up an hour earlier, have some water, like just spark the interest. Hey, we're awake now. We are doing this thing. Maybe I have one piece of fruit and then 30 minutes later, I'm able to eat. Or maybe I have, a granola bar, just something to be like, body, we're awake, we're doing these things, so on and so forth. And so the same kind of goes for nighttime, right? You're winding yourself down. Maybe you're watching a TV show, having a cup of tea, having a snack, 30 minutes or 10 minutes before bed is very confusing to your body. Because then your body's like, are we winding down or are we turning up? Which one is it? And so then you go to bed with this meal that you just had not even 10 minutes ago, and you're laying down. Your GI tract works best when you're sitting up. So like if you're vomiting or feeling nauseous, I always tell people to sit up because that way the GI tract can do what it needs to. If you lay down, your body is fighting gravity while also trying to help you go to sleep.
Yeah, that's really
I
interesting.
guess.
Yeah.
Definitely will put that to use
Yeah.
at some
Yeah.
point.
I like eat an hour before bed. I don't like telling, like, there's definitely a misconception that, oh, if it's 9 o'clock, I can't eat past 9 or I can't eat past 10. That's cool, but what time are you actually going to bed? Like, make it make sense, not an arbitrary rule. In Spain, they start dinner at 10 at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
So it just depends on your lifestyle.
Okay. Cool. Well, what role does mindfulness in the context of like eating habits and like what role does mindfulness play, and how can people kind of cultivate a more mindful approach to the way they eat?
That is a great question. Mindfulness definitely helps with our hunger and full cues, as we were mentioning earlier. a lot of times, and I've talked to like a few people or clients where they're like, oh, I eat because I know I'm supposed to eat at 7, and then I eat again because I know I'm supposed to eat at noon, and then I eat again because it's, dinner time. But they didn't think about what they ate. They didn't even think about if they enjoyed it. And they don't even actually know if they're hungry or when they're full. And so being mindful in that, one, when are you hungry? Most people don't even know when they're hungry until it's way too late. Like if you've ever had a moment where you're not able to think straight, things are kind of fuzzy, you not responding to things properly, you're a bit upset, you don't even know why you're irritable. You're so irritable. You want to throw something, and then eventually they're like, oh, right, I didn't have breakfast or lunch today. That explains so much. Meanwhile, you're already in a meeting, so you can't even get up and go have that lunch. So mindfulness, I'm like, oh, I'm probably hungry. Let me take care of this before it gets to an 8. Right now, my hunger level's at a 3. The other side of that is binge eating. Unfortunately, or really any type of like overeating. This meal is so good. I love it so much. Or you're eating and watching television. You're not paying attention. You don't even know that you're full. Your mind is just telling you have to finish the plate. Also, mindfulness and planning ahead for your meals, I think, is super duper important because, as I just mentioned, what happens when you realize that maybe you waited too long to eat and you still have no plan for food? You're like, oh my God, it's 8 o'clock. What are we going to do for dinner? I didn't even think about dinner. I just got home. I'm not going back out to the store. All right, we're having cookies for dinner. Like, that's exactly.
Yeah. Do you have
Or
any like opinions on like meal prepping? Like I know some people like meal prep for the week, like since the food isn't as fresh or something like that. Like what do you think of meal prepping?
I am such a big advocate for meal planning. If you can do it, if it fits in your schedule, do it, do it, do it. You will thank yourself later. Just, it's like present you taking care of future you in the most beautiful, pathetic way possible. That's all I can say. One, you save money. I guarantee you will save money. In the end, you will save time because you had a plan. All you have to do is heat it up. You'll likely enjoy the meals because you made them and you know that they're healthy. So you're like putting intention and time into this thing that's going to make your week just so much easier. If you can, please plan ahead.
And do you have any like favorite recipes or like any dishes that you really, really like that you feel really provide a balanced dish?
That's a great question. I love that a lot. Mm, I like to do a lot of like skillet or one pot meals because I'm a mom, so it's just easier. Throw it all in the pot, but like as I'm throwing it in the pot, I'm like, carbs. All right, awesome. So I do pastas or rice, potatoes, something. So if I'm doing a pasta dish, I'll throw in that pasta. There's my carbs. Excellent. I try to use like the pasta that has the vegetables in it or like the protein pasta. Slide in those nutrients wherever you can. Add in my protein. Maybe we're doing chicken pasta. Add in my vegetables. I load it up, load it up, load it up. Stir fries are great. I wish I had a specific recipe. But my one pot meals are a go-to because as I'm putting things in the pot or on the skillet or on the pan, I can actually see all of the nutrients and I'll just count them. Do. Wait, I don't have any dairy. We'll put cheese on top. Maybe I'll make a cream sauce. And I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, bad. No, that pretty much answered it.
No,
Thank
I'm
you.
just solid.
I guess
They
on
get it.
the let's see. I guess on the flip side of that, what is like the one food or the one ingredient that you can't stand?
Mushrooms. It's so sad.
Whoa, that is
What?
I'm a mushroom like
Mushrooms?
fanatic. Oh,
I know. They're
oh.
fun to cook with. That's the weird part. I love cooking with mushrooms. Like, if you want to practice having amazing cutting skills, just cut mushrooms all day long. Like, the texture is amazing, the flavor is amazing. I don't want to eat it. So I'll cook with mushrooms and then push them to the side.
Wow.
Do you
Do
just
it.
is it the texture that you don't like or what's specifically about mushrooms?
I think it's the mushrooms, like texture.
Uh-huh.
And I can't get over the fact that it's a fungus. If I'm being honest, I want to be involved. I can't. That is, I will eat
there's like
octopus. I will have raw fish. I will try ants. I cannot do mushrooms.
Wait,
Mm.
so do you cook with like the mushroom just like to get the flavor and then you just like take it out? Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I will cheat.
So, what are your thoughts on the relationship between gut health and overall well-being? And how can individuals improve their gut health through nutrition?
Oh, that's such a fun question. So I actually have an antidote to go with this, but I'll give you like the dietetic answer first. The science on this is still new and emerging. We do know that many serotonin receptors exist in the gut, and the gut and the brain are very much connected. The gut microbiome is very individualized, which is once again why I'm afraid to give you guys any real tests. It's very individualized, and there's no one size fits best here. In general, eating fruits, vegetables, fiber rich foods, and fats from the sources of fish and avocados, like our omega 3s and all of that, tend to have a beneficial impact on the gut microbiome. Um, Probiotics are a big thing right now. Some people choose to take those, but it's important to note that research on these are still very new and limited. So, with that being said, story time. I have a stepdaughter who is now 17. When I first moved into this home, they were 10 years old and they threw up obsessively to the point where we didn't know if they were going to be able to finish school. We were doing all kinds of doctor visits, and this went on for years of just lots of vomiting all the time. It was just a daily part of our lives. And this was right around the time when research about the microbiome and gut health was emerging. So we're like, hey, let's try out these kombuchas, let's try out the probiotics. And at least in our experience, for our kid, it really, really helped and worked. She doesn't throw up anymore, like rarely, really rarely. And it was really interesting to see how probiotics not immediately, but over the course of a few months fixed a problem that we had been looking at for years. And that also like was why we started thinking about food and herbs and things as nutrition. I don't know if that answered it.
Yeah.
That's good. And is there any like emerging like are there any emerging like trends or research that like you think that's like interesting or like noteworthy?
The only thing, and that's such a fun dietetic question. The only thing that I could think of that's new and emerging and like mind blowing ish is the fact that they've removed trans fats. Like it's hard to find trans fats in foods, even though it's still on the food labels because you can't like completely get rid of trans fats, but they don't allow them to produce trans fat foods anymore. And it's changed like what margarine is and how it's produced. I'm like, that's interesting. And they never tell people. I'm like, how do they find out about this?
Yeah.
So
I had no idea.
And what exactly is so important about trans fats? Like what does it do for your body?
trans fats are very, very bad for the body. Artificial trans fats definitely increase the risk of heart disease. Um, People consuming these usually end up having like higher fats in their bloodstream, higher cholesterol. It's just bad news for the body. There's literally no health benefits to having trans fats in our foods. So though, yeah, trans fats have been banned. I just Googled it. Have been banned in food since 2020.
Wow. I had
Oh,
no
that's
Good.
idea. I
interesting.
guess in 2020 we were so busy thinking of like other stuff that just
Trying to
completely missed
survive.
the roster.
Yeah, and like I said, they never really talk about it. So, in the United States, manufacturers can label their products as trans fat free, which is what they're doing. But yeah,
Yeah, everything's already trans fat free technically, so
all right, I'm like, why put it
yeah.
in there?
I got you.
Marketing.
So, back to the question about meal prep. Like, do you have any thoughts about like subscription meal services? Like, there are a lot of services online where they can ship you all the ingredients you need, the down to the specific amounts, the specific portion. Do you like recommend those, or do you think people should stray away from them and discover their own thing? Or
I definitely recommend them. I'm a huge supporter. We actually use the meal kits ourselves. So once again, have a plan, but make it work with your lifestyle. I'm very busy. I'm rarely home. So having meals delivered to my home that I can pick out has been very, very helpful. But I only do a few. I do like 3. So the other days of the week, I can still like cook and plan my own things. So I think it's really great. Like having used it, I also wanted to try it out so I could recommend it to people. But yeah, they're great. Like there's no flaw. It gets delivered. It's actually cheaper than grocery shopping right now for me as
Wow.
well. Think about it. Every time you go shopping, I'm like, I'm just gonna get what I need for dinner. You never get what you need for dinner.
Never.
You get other stuff too.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yes. And then whatever you don't use gets wasted in the fridge, so on and so forth. So it's eliminated our waste. We save a lot of money. We get a lot of variety because also it's just hard to think of things if you're not a chef. There's so many things you can do.
So speaking of like not being a chef, do you have any advice for people who don't know how to cook or like they're just starting to learn how to cook?
Yeah.
Because you know, sometimes like cookbooks aren't really the first thing that come in mind. Is it just like a trial and error, like experimentation?
Yes. I don't know if it's advice or a quote, but in cooking, there are no mistakes, only opportunities.
Mm.
I like
And
that.
yes, that was a game changer for me because all the time I'm like cooking and I'm practicing these meals. I'm like, oh my God, I messed it up. I ruined it. Like, this is trash. No, it's just a different dish now.
That's true.
I think that's how so many amazing cooking techniques and discoveries are made is through messing up, so to speak. It's just a new opportunity. Different dish now. Different dish. Open up your repertoire.
Totally. Thank you.
I was wondering, by the way, I know when you cook vegetables, they do lose an amount of their nutrients. Do you know how much nutrients they lose? Like, or like different ways of cooking? There's like boiling, steaming, pan frying, like, do they lose nutrients? And isn't it a significant amount? Like, yeah.
Yes, that is actually a really great and helpful question. See, this one I can answer directly. Whenever we cook fruit or foods or vegetables or whatever, vitamins get cooked out. Minerals do not. Minerals cannot be cooked out. Nobody knows that. Vitamins will get cooked out. The majority of the ways that vitamins are cooked out are through steaming or boiling their vegetables. So I don't boil vegetables. I don't steam them. You just have to be very quick about when you pull it out. So you want your vegetables to still have a crunch. Once they're soft, all of the vitamins have been cooked out essentially. But
No. Good to know. Good to know. Good to know.
so the crunchier the vegetable is, the more nutrients it has, which is why we are always saying that people should have whole fruits, whole vegetables, eat, raw salads, raw carrots, raw broccoli. But if that is not for you, that's okay. You don't have to. Just know that that is like the healthiest way you're going to get that vegetable. And then any type of cooking from then on, it's losing nutrients. So I like to broil, bake, roast, saute my veggies. They're more flavorful that way and they maintain their crunch. And, yeah, vegetables.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's really good advice. But also, like me personally, I just don't like soggy vegetables, so I guess I've just been doing the right thing this entire time.
But no shame, right? So let's say that you like really soggy vegetables. Just drink the vegetable juice because that's where all of the nutrients went,
Oh my
right?
gosh. Okay, so that reminds me. This was a while ago and I think I was just scrolling on Instagram Reels and I saw this reel and they were kind of saying that they were like comparing a fruit smoothie versus actual fruits. And they were saying that the fruit smoothie is a lot worse for you because of the blending, the glucose is already broken down. So your body kind of like takes it in easier versus having to chew the fruit, like have it go through your digestive system and then have your system break down the glucose and stuff. So is that true? Is that accurate?
It's yes and no. It's almost true. We're so close. So one, nothing's better than the other, right? Because it really just depends on your goals and objective. If I'm about to go for a run, I want that smoothie because I want the carbs that are already broken down. It just makes it easier for me to immediately have that fuel and go run. If I have diabetes and my doctor told me I needed a high fiber diet, I'm probably not going to go for the smoothie. So it just depends on what my medical nutritional needs are at that time. So back to the smoothie. It Whole foods will always be better, period. Whole fruits, whole vegetables, because you're getting the nutrients as it is, nothing added, nothing taken away. With smoothies, things are being taken away and added. You can obviously make your smoothie healthier depending on what it is that you're adding. So maybe if I just had an apple, I wouldn't get as much nutrients as I would if I had apple, banana, spinach smoothie,
Gotcha.
because now I'm adding in all of these new nutrients. But when I blend it up, yes, they are losing a lot of fiber.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I have an issue in my GI tract. Maybe I have diverticulitis and I can't have fiber. Blend up all of my food.
Yeah. Okay.
Really just about what your goals and objectives are. Nothing's better or worse. You can always mix it up, have a whole apple and then a smoothie the next day.
Okay. Thank you.
Speaking of just vitamins and nutrients, do you recommend the use of like dietary supplements for people who need that extra support, or do you think they should be getting that like through more food that they're eating rather than a supplement?
I will always recommend food first. Food first, food first. Because even if they're taking that supplement, their body doesn't get to fully digest the food itself. And the less that we use those functions, the least amount that the body is able to function. If that makes sense, like all of the insides are muscles as well. If you never go running, then you won't be able to run. So if you're never eating the nutrients that you need, your body won't know how to digest them. Also, with that, I won't recommend supplements to anyone unless it was recommended by a doctor because they have a nutrition deficiency. Everything, everything that you need can be found in food. That's why it's here. This is a gift from the earth. Eat it, enjoy it, and then get supplements if it's not working or you have some other medical situation where you just can't eat that type of food that would give you the nutrients you need.
I was wondering, so there are a lot of people who tend to undereat, and maybe their maintenance caloric intake is 800 calories, 1,000 calories. Yeah, so I was wondering what you think about reverse dieting, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with it. Reverse dieting is like slowly eating more and more food to up your caloric intake. So instead of maybe shaving down 300 calories every 2 weeks, you're eating 300 calories more every 2 weeks, and your body adapts. And then slowly you're like increasing your caloric intake. Do you think that works, or how do you think that could
It
affect your body?
definitely works. I didn't have the term for it. But that's something I do myself personally, not because I undereat, but I'm just very small. So I have to like incrementally have more calories, which is why I snack all the time. But it definitely works. And that's what I would suggest to anyone. We don't want to make big gains. We don't. Whether you're trying to lose weight or gain weight or have more calories or have less calories, you always want to do it in small increments so that your body can adjust to what's happening. Anytime you make big changes, your body's like, whoa, what are we doing? Just small increments go a long way. Also, to add to that, um, the least amount of calories that you want to have is 1,200. Like that is the low. Anything past that, and I would like start going to see a doctor, a dietitian, but no less than 1,200 calories a day.
Yeah, and do you think that high metabolism or low metabolism plays a role in like how much you're able to eat? Like in terms of like how much you're able to stomach like before you feel full?
Absolutely. Because metabolisms are attached to our hormones, and our hormones are attached to how hungry we feel. So definitely, definitely. The mind, the body, the hormones, they're all very much interconnected. And so the more you understand your body, the easier it is to navigate these tricky waters.
So, adding on to the topic of calories, what do you think about people who count calories? Should they be counting their calories or eating until they feel full?
I think a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Once again, it depends on why they're counting the calories. Um, I generally support people counting calories. I just know how stressful and time consuming it can be. I count calories on a very light fashion. So I have like my staples in the house. Anytime I go grocery shopping, I'm always reading the nutrition facts labels. And so, excuse me, I'll read the nutrition facts labels. And I know that if I buy the same amount of foods often enough when we're eating, generally I have a very general idea of how many nutrients I'm eating. I'm calorie counting, but mostly because I already know what I have stocked in my house. I know that if I have this amount of crackers, that's going to be, 200 calories with a side of yogurt and cheese, then, maybe that's an 800 calorie meal. And I'm good with that. That's a great set, depending on what my goals are. Like I said, I'm trying to bulk up. So I go for high calorie snacks personally. Yeah.
Perfect.
But if you were counting calories, sorry, if you were counting calories and then your body was like, that doesn't feel good, then go back to listen to your body, talk to your dietitian, talk to your doctor.
All right. Well, it seems like we only have 3 minutes left.
Okay.
So, one last question just to wrap up. What's your favorite grain?
My favorite grain?
Yeah.
Probably cornmeal for like grits and cornbread.
Cornmeal.
Yeah.
That's the grain of truth right
And
there.
polenta. Yeah. All my home cooked meals. That's my favorite grain.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much for your time today, Miss Lewis. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
We
thank
really
you.
appreciate you coming here and stuff. So yeah.
Of course. These were all great questions. Thank you guys so much for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you for being a part of it.